Planning your very first Hawaii vacation can be exciting and overwhelming all at the same time, between flights, which island to choose, where to stay. In this episode, you'll discover 3 simple mistakes, probably not even on your radar, that could negatively affect your trip and how to skip them for a smoother, more authentic Hawaii experience. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii's Best, the podcast helping you plan an unforgettable trip to Hawaii. I'm your host, Bryan Murphy, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. And if you're planning your first trip to Hawaii, you're probably so excited. I remember my first trip. It felt like it was a blur, but I'm going to go over some of the things that I wish I would have known. And this episode, especially for you as you're planning and thinking about your trip, you probably already know where you want to stay. Maybe you're thinking about the island, but I'm going to go over 3 common mistakes that a lot of first-time visitors overlook. And honestly, if you've been to Hawaii before, some of these tips I think you'll find valuable because a lot of these tips I didn't quite pick up on or learn after a few times of going to Hawaii. But before we dive in, I feel like there's some travel news I need to update on. If you listen to my last episode, talked about the FAA and the flight cuts and how that is going to affect travel, especially going into this holiday season. Now, it's been a few days removed from that and have some updated info I wanted to bring to you about specifically travel to Hawaii. And I think some of this can be applied to you because if you're listening to this, maybe you're not traveling to Hawaii this Thanksgiving or this holiday season, but maybe you are traveling somewhere else on the continent. So as you probably are aware, the federal government shutdown, it began on October 1st. It's still going on. Looking at the news yesterday on Monday, it looked like that there might be an agreement. I don't follow a lot of politics, but I do try to follow some of the headlines, especially with this topic. It looks like there might be some agreement between the parties. But as of today, November 11th, and happy Veterans Day, especially honestly to if you served our country, someone in your family, extreme gratitude. Thank you for your service. I know thinking about my grandpa, thinking about my father-in-law who both served and some other family members as well. So brother-in-law. So appreciate everyone who has served. So we're on day 42 of the shutdown. It's the longest shutdown in U.S. history. And what does that mean for Hawaii travelers? Well, TSA agents and air traffic controllers, which are super important for traveling safely, they're still working, but they've been doing so without pay, and they actually just missed their second paycheck. But here's where things get even a little bit more complicated. The FAA ordered flight cuts last week. You can go ahead and listen to my Friday episode. And this was in response to ease demand on control towers, which are short-staffed during the shutdown. And from what I've learned, they were actually short-staffed prior to the shutdown. Since then, airlines have canceled more than 9,000 flights across the U.S., and another 1,200 domestic flights were canceled just yesterday on Monday the 10th. The FAA increased its target for cutting flights at the nation's busiest airports to 6%, up from 4%, and that's set to rise to 10% by this coming Friday. Even though the government is set to reopen soon, hopefully, these flight cuts aren't just going to disappear overnight. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said that the cuts will remain even after the shutdown ends until safety metrics improve and staffing levels stabilize at air traffic control facilities. So unfortunately, there's no timeline yet on when things will be back to, quote, normal. But a little good news is for Hawaii travelers specifically, the islands have experienced some disruptions, not major disruptions like across the country compared to mainland. For example, Hawaiian Airlines did cancel a handful of inter-island flights, just 6 flights on November 7th and 8th. But overall, things are running pretty smoothly. I think I saw that there was a flight from Kauai to Seattle that might have been cut. The major disruptions are hitting hubs like Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and the New York area are being hit the hardest right now. All that to say, if you're traveling to Hawaii in the near future, like my family is, here's what I would recommend. Check your flight status frequently, like crazy frequent. Get the apps, get the notifications, get the emails, all the things. Arrive at the airport earlier than you normally would. I know I stress Allie out, my wife. Flight leaves at 7. We could be there at 6. So we're going to plan on getting to the airport at 3 hours. That's our game plan, even though we're going to a less crowded airport, Long Beach. we're going to plan to get there 3 hours before our flight. So just allow extra time for security and honestly have a backup plan just in case. The bottom line, travel to Hawaii continues. Hawaii officials have also been proactive. They've requested waivers and even offered to fund federal workers, which is really cool. State officials say airports are running smoothly right now and safety standards are being maintained. Now, national parks, that's another big question that I've gotten. National parks do have limited service, but most are still open. So if you're traveling to Hawaii in the near future, here's what I recommend. Bottom line, check your flight status frequently, arrive at the airport earlier than you think you should, and just allow some extra time and extra grace, extra aloha for everyone involved, from TSA agents to flight attendants. All right, that's a longer update than I wanted to give you, but I think it's so prevalent, especially for those who are traveling this holiday season. So let's get into the 3 mistakes. I'm going to get right into mistake number 1, and that's honestly probably the biggest mistake and something that we've learned over the years is trying to do too much. This is by far the most common mistake I see, most common mistake I've experienced personally. And I totally get why it happens. You're dreaming about visiting Hawaii maybe since forever. And you've seen all the incredible photos. Maybe you follow us on Instagram at hawaiis.best and you've got all the things in the list and you want to do and you want to see, you want to experience. But the problem is, people try to cram too much into their itinerary and they end up spending more time, more money, stressed out, and traveling more than actually enjoying and slowing down and just experiencing Hawaii, island time, the island pace, the vibes. So with all that in mind, here's my advice for this mistake. For your first trip, just pick one island, or at most 2. If you're staying maybe 10 days plus, you can probably do 2 islands comfortably. Give yourself some time to slow down. It's going to take a couple days after traveling to really get the speed and the pace of the island. So you want to explore without rushing, to stumble upon a little cafe, a hidden beach, someone selling some local fruit on the side of the road. Those things you want to build in time and just have some of that downtime. Maybe sleep in a morning, spend an afternoon doing absolutely nothing but sitting at the beach. That's not wasting time. That's why you're in Hawaii. That's experiencing Hawaii the way it's meant to be experienced. One of the biggest things that I have found in slowing down and not getting so bogged down by a packed itinerary is getting time to talk to the locals, getting time to talk to Hawaiians, and just being able to hear their story and hear why Hawaii is special to them, and just to understand. It's not like just traveling between states. It's a whole other world. It's a whole other culture. And slowing down really helps with that. All right, let's go to mistake number 2. And it kind of goes into what I was talking about, and that is neglecting Hawaiian culture. This is a big one because it's about missing out on a richer experience, but it's also about respect. So look, Hawaii isn't just another beach destination. It's not like just going to a pretty beach. Hawaii has deep, rich native Hawaiian culture that goes back over 1,000 years. The Hawaiian people have their own language, their own customs, their own traditions, and their own history. And what's special about that is that we're all a guest in their home. Unfortunately, a lot of visitors treat Hawaii like it's a tropical playground, like it's Disneyland or just something of that type of mentality, and without taking the time to learn about or respect the culture. And that's honestly a mistake. You're missing out on some of the most meaningful parts of your trip. So what does it all mean to engage with Hawaiian culture? Well, let me give you some practical ways on how to do that. First, before you go, do a little research. Learn about Hawaiian history. We've got some incredible podcasts that we've done with some culture practitioners. I'll link those below, so that might be good, after this episode. But understand what aloha really means. I did a whole deep dive with Kahonuala Solatorio, who is a Hawaiian language teacher at Kamehameha Schools. And he went over, it was like a 30-minute episode all about the word aloha. Definitely recommend listening to that. And once you understand that, it changes how you experience the islands. It really does. And the second way is visit cultural sites with respect. So, for example, going to Iolani Palace. I know this year we're going to be doing a lot more of that. I think our girls are a little bit older now and can appreciate some of the history. We're going to be taking them to Iolani Palace and Bishop Museum this time around. And third, support local businesses and artisans along the way. So seek out locally owned restaurants, shops, tour operators. When you can, buy authentic Hawaiian crafts and products. There's a lot of farmers markets across all the islands. This helps the local economy and even gives you a chance to connect with the people who call Hawaii home. Those connections, you'll be surprised. Those are the ones you remember. Those are the ones that last a lifetime. If you have a chance, attend a luau or cultural demonstration, not the super touristy one, but the ones that are actually focused on education and preserving Hawaiian traditions. PCC, Polynesian Culture Center, does a great job at this. Learn about hula, about traditional navigation, about Hawaiian values. These experiences will stay with you long after your trip. Now, the third and final common mistake for first-time visitors to Hawaii is worrying too much about the weather. I see this all the time. And honestly, these are some of my highest ranked blog posts is about weather during the different times of year in Hawaii. People get caught up so much in trying to figure out the absolute perfect time to visit Hawaii. Researching the best month, the best times of month, stressing out over weather forecasts, when's hurricane season. A lot of people worried about rain or clouds during their trip. I totally understand, especially if maybe you have family pictures planned or you want to go to a beach. I totally get it. But the truth about Hawaii, it's a tropical climate year-round, so that means pretty much it's always a good time to visit Hawaii. Yeah, some months might get a bit more rain. Some months might be a little bit more windy, depending on the side of the island, if you're on windward side or leeward side, if it's dry or if it's wet. And there are subtle differences in the seasons, but we're not talking about the difference between summer and winter in New York, for example. Talking about like 80 degrees versus 85, 90 degrees. So whether you might get a brief rain shower in the afternoon or not, you might. But my advice would be pick the time that works for your schedule and your budget. And that's what's going to matter most, because there are times during the year when it is a little bit cheaper than, say, going peak like around July. You're going to get a better deal typically if you travel like mid-October. We love October. We love February. Those are our two favorite months, honestly. Now, are there certain times of years that might be better for a specific activity or thing to do? Absolutely. So if you want to see some whales, and that's like top on your list, visit between December and April. Even as early as October, November, you might start seeing some whales, but official whale season is, I think, December 15th. And you'll start really, especially if you're on Maui, you're going to get the best opportunity to see some of the migrating whales. Winter months also bring some big surf to the North Shore, for example, of Oahu. So it's a great, incredible time to watch some professional surfers. Don't get in the water in the North Shore during the winter time on any of the North Shore facing beaches. Summer months are drier. They're great for snorkeling. You got a little bit more of calm ocean activity, especially the North Shore. If you're talking about North Shore, Oahu, Waimea Bay versus summer and winter, it's totally crazy how much it changes. It's so much calmer during the summer months. But I mean, listen, every season in Hawaii has its own advantages. You really can't go wrong. Don't let the weather worries dictate your entire trip and stress you out. Pack some layers because evenings can be cooler, especially at higher elevations. Bring a light rain jacket just in case. And then once you're there, embrace whatever weather you get, because rain in Hawaii is definitely better than rain anywhere else in the world, in my opinion, at least. All right, so there you go. Those are the 3 biggest mistakes that I've seen that people make. I know I've made a few of these for their first trip to Hawaii. Number 1, trying to do too much over scheduling your trip. Number 2, neglecting Hawaiian culture and missing out on the deeper meaning of the islands. And number 3, worrying too much about the weather instead of just embracing the experience. So if you can avoid these 3 mistakes, you're going to have, I think, a better trip. You'll come home more relaxed, inspired, with a genuine appreciation of what makes Hawaii so special. Because at the end of the day, Hawaii isn't just about beautiful beaches, perfect sunsets, incredible Mai Tais at Monkey Pod, shout out. It's about the spirit of the place, the warmth of the people, and the way it makes you feel when you slow down enough to really take it all in and experience the aloha of Hawaii. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode today. And if you found it helpful, drop me a review, drop a rating and review if this episode has been helpful in your planning for your trip to Hawaii. And until next time, my friend, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best.
To stay up to date on future episodes, hit follow on your podcast app. Hawaii's Best is a production of Shorebreak Media Group with editing by Easy Podcast Solutions and music courtesy of our friends Stick Figure.